It is possible that you will miss something that is taking place on the XRP ledger if you blink right now. The past few months have been absolutely enormous for the cryptocurrency known as XRP. Aside from that, I'm not going to comment about price activity because, well, let's be honest here. Price activity has been somewhat volatile as of late. In addition, things have been difficult since around the beginning of January because, well, let's be honest here. There has not been a significant amount of expansion occurring in relation to Bitcoin. Also, I am aware that this may seem peculiar to you, right? It is XRP that we are discussing. Why are we discussing Bitcoin in this context? That is because we are currently in the midst of a Bitcoin season. The focus is entirely on Bitcoin. There is a 65% lead for Bitcoin. To be honest, at the moment, all we do is kind of keep track on what Bitcoin is doing. On the other hand, this is technically sound. And the reason for this is that right now, with all of these things occurring around the XRP ledger and XRP, the most important question that each and every one of us has is why an XRP is pumping because of all of these news stories. Well, the reason for this is because we are still dependent on Bitcoin. On the other hand, the good news is that if we are asking that question, it indicates that XRP ought to be pumping, which also indicates that pressure is building up behind the scenes. And when we finally begin to see that lovely upward swing on Bitcoin and Bitcoin dumps plummet, XRP is going to surge to new heights. However, before we get into that, let's first discuss a couple of the most important reasons why this is the case. Before I get started, I feel it is important to point out that the present moment is the ideal time to join the free Discord server. There is, without a doubt, a paid side, and if you guys decide to join the paid side, I can assure you that you won't be sorry you did so. Obviously, the decision is yours to make, but there is going to be a link down in the explanation below where you guys may join up, and you won't be sorry you did so. Now, with everything out of the way, let's get down to business. Of course, Ondo's OUSG was the first significant upgrade that was released. Is it correct that this was announced in the month of January? However, tokenized United States Treasuries are now ready to be traded on the XRP ledger. In addition to being mintable and redeemable with RLUSD, Ondo financially supports OUSG, which is funded by BlackRock's Build Fund and opens 24/7 institutional access. A new era has begun for the field of on-chain financing. Aside from that, this is really cool. And in point of fact, the website rwa.wazid is now keeping track of this information. We were able to observe that there is a wonderful about 9% surge to the upside around the value of RWA, and also if we scroll down we will notice that Ondo has a total of $10 million associated with the XRP ledger. The other day when I was really discussing this topic, there was only approximately $1,500 on the XRP ledger. This is a pretty significant change, especially when one considers the fact that I was talking about it. As a result, we are beginning to observe a significant amount of this money coming in, and we are also beginning to observe an increasing amount of money being sent out on the XRP ledger in relation to tokenized value. I am quite pleased to see this. Now, when we consider Ondo, it is immediately apparent that Ondo is a massive entity. In the event that we really click on Ondo at this point, we will see that they have a total worth of $2.68 billion associated with them. And if we really walk over here to the United States Treasury, we are aware that Ondo is technically the #1 stock because, let's be honest, we are unable to purchase shares in Securitize. Alright, we are unable to purchase a token that has been securitized. Ondo is theoretically the most important entity in this context, yet they have $1.4 billion attached to the network solely around tokenized treasury. This is despite the fact that they are officially the most important entity. As a result, Ondo is a towering colossus. Additionally, if we are to take a look at the market overview at this very moment, we are now at around $23.5 billion in terms of the entire RWA value. Additionally, we are able to read through all of the materials by scrolling down. As you probably already know, Ondo is now ranked 5th. Nevertheless, they have been expanding. As a matter of fact, OUSG, if we take a closer look at this item, it has increased by 27.5% over the course of the past 30 days, and it has been expanding significantly. In addition, the XRP ledger is now available, which is a significant improvement over the Solana and Ethereum ledgers. In point of fact, it is greater than Polygon, due to the fact that Polygon has no value associated with it. However, I believe that when we consider XRP and all of these significant changes, we are still in the early stages. Is that correct? This is only the beginning of the process. This is in its phases. Therefore, before I attempt to look at this and say, oh well, there's only $137 million tied to the XRP ledger, I'm going to give it a little bit more time to settle in. How soon will we begin to notice an increase in the amount of money that is associated with this? I am certain that we will arrive at our destination. Also, this actually did increase since we were at $127 million, but we can actually see that this increased because of the Guggenheim Treasury Services DCP. This is something that we can see. Equally, it is currently at $10 million. Consequently, it is actually up 17.6%, which is a significant increase from the first approximately 9% that I was referring to. Again, you can see it even live that things are beginning to alter around the XRP ledger. This is something that you can see going on. But when I think about Ondo, I also think about the Wall Street 2.0 push, which is now also occurring with Ripple, of course, since once again Ripple is connected to Ondo in a significant manner through these projects. Additionally, much more recently, Ripple X-Dev did release a video that included Ondo's financial information. It was Nathan. As a side note, Nathan is the Chief Executive Officer of Ondo Finance, although the men were unaware of this fact. Additionally, we have tokenized treasuries that have genuine business use on-chain access. Nathan is generous. The fact that you issued on the XRP ledger and settled it without any problems using ROUSD is a significant achievement for institutions. Tokenization is brought into the mainstream in this manner. At this point you should have this, at a 0.25 times. This is done in order to circumvent the copyright at YouTube. It is a complete and utter foolishness because they are going to silence this video, so I really hope that they do not mute this. Take a look at it, but if they do, please accept my apologies. It is intriguing to see how markets may behave in a wave-like and cyclical manner when we truly take a moment to consider what is taking place in this location. Am I right? You do realize that this is just the beginning of the tokenization tsunami that is now taking place, right? To the point where this is no longer a game of, oh yeah, let's speculate on whether or not this is going to happen, or, let's think about 5 or 10 years down the road. No, this is taking place right now. Tokenization is now available. We are able to observe that. We were able to locate it. The numerical values are currently in front of us, and by the way, I don't believe it's necessary for me to inform you guys that this has been on an upward trajectory for the past about 6 to 12 months and that it has been growing continuously. We are presented with yet another significant news about tokenization on a nearly daily basis. The fact that everything is taking place on the XRP ledger is another thing that makes this situation so strange, as a result of the fact that at the end of the day it is not going to be occurring on meme coins, it is happening on a lot of these terrific utility-based project networks. Unfortunately, this is not going to take place on Bitcoin. That being said, in addition to this, we also learnt about a few things that were taking place at the XRP Apex. As a matter of fact, we received a response from Ian Debode, who is responsible for Ondo Finances, asking whether or not we have already reached the point of inflection for tokenization. Moreover, he was really having a conversation with Monica Long on the main stage of the XRP ledger at Apex 2025, in order to discuss what the future holds for the markets as they go on-chain. Furthermore, due to the presence of music, this is also being played at a pace of 1.25 times. To what do you believe it is related at this time? When would you say the genuine turning point occurred, whether it was this year or the year before, and what were the factors that led to it? At long last, we have arrived at a turning point when the regulatory certainty is beginning to take shape. In addition, I would argue that if you simply look at the data, tokenization is already scaling. You are beginning to witness the inflection point in the hockey stick moment, which was initially seen in cash and is now being seen in treasuries. One of the most important questions is, what comes after this? What kind of investment will it be? Private equity or real estate? The assets that we assume would be most appropriate to tokenize are in fact the ones that are material that is already liquid and that people truly desire to have. But I would argue that tokenization is already here and now, much like publicly traded equities and exchange-traded funds. This is the time where things are beginning to ramp up in a significant manner. So yeah, we are at that stage.